In our first story, the Health Ministry has asked the Medical Director of the Ankerville Psychiatric Hospital, Dr. Eugene Dodoi, to step aside following agitations by nurses at the facility. The decision was reached after a meeting between management of the hospital and officials of the Health Ministry Friday. The nurses had accused Dr. Dodoi of abusing them and having poor human relations, which they claim adversely affected their well-being. They had withdrawn their services indefinitely as they demanded Dr. Dodoi's removal. Well, the Health Ministry early on Friday asked the embattled medical director to step aside to enable him undergo training in human relations management. The ministry, however, failed to indicate whether he may be reassigned to the hospital. Robert Kujo is Public Relations Officer at the ministry. He spoke earlier on The Pulse with Gifty Andwapia.
After the training, he will be assessed. That's why I said that he will be assessed whether he should go back to the same facility as the medical director or maybe be transferred to another place.
Will he be on salary whilst he's being trained? Is he going to be on salary whilst he's still undergoing training?
It's like totally with pay. His appointment has not been terminated, he has not been sacked, he has not been dismissed. But we need his services.
So what is the right description for what has just happened? Because you say his appointment has not been terminated. You say he has not been asked to step aside. You say he has not been dismissed. What exactly has happened?
Well, the whole thing borders on his attitude. So we think that is where his minuses are. He's a very good man, but he does a lot of changes as far as management of the facility is concerned, discipline and everything is okay, except that is his weakness. That's why we think he should go through some sort of training.
And someone else is going to be in charge of the hospital. Now, what I want to find out is what is the technical description, or what is the labor description for what has happened to him now?
Well, I don't know the kind of description that we can use, but we want to treat this issue in a completely different manner. You know, we need this psychiatrist. The whole Ghana, we have this about 16, and it's very difficult to come by them. So we think that we want to bring some human face. We don't want him to be seen to be penalized so much that.
So as we speak, he's under some sort of punishment.
But we want to handle this issue in a different way. That is why we're not giving any term as far as this, being asked to go to school is concerned.
The workers have welcomed the Health Ministry's decision, although they say they are awaiting official communication from the ministry before they resume work. They're also asking government to investigate Dr. Dodoi for alleged financial impropriety. Emmanuel Ofori is spokesperson for the Ankerville nurses.
Oh, it doesn't make us happy. The only thing is that we were calling for the right thing to be done. So once it has been done, it is a step in the right direction. And even though we've not received any official communication, what we are saying is that it shouldn't be just that he should be asked to step aside. We raised certain concerns, and the minister assured us that he was going to send the Auditor General to come and audit the affairs of the hospital director. So it shouldn't end there. The President has informed us that we should be citizens and not spectators. We have belief, or we have conviction that certain things have gone on in the facility.
Certain things like what?
With respect to mismanagement and sometimes financial issues that we raise. And so what we are saying is they should send auditors. If we must be happy if Iyoko comes around.
Now, one other person who has welcomed the ministry's decision for Dr. Dodoi to step aside is Joseph Yilechire, who is minority spokesperson on health. He joins us on the line now. Many thanks for your time, Honorable. What are your own thoughts on the health ministry's decision to ask Dr. Dodoi to step aside? The workers say it's long overdue.
Thank you very much. I thank you for the opportunity, and good evening to you, the viewers and listeners.
think that the decision finally for Dr. Dodoye to step aside, as indicated by the workers, is long overdue. And my own understanding of this whole matter is that it is very strange for a ministry, particularly for the minister who was removing almost every head of an institution when he came to the ministry, to find it difficult when all the staff were against one doctor, and he agreed to allow the doctor to stay. Now, he's gone ahead to ask that he should be retrained. I believe that it's good that everybody is given this opportunity to prove one way or the other that they are suitable. But it's a game of numbers. And I believe that the decision today to let him step aside, I mean, it's a better one in the sense that this, you don't expect this whole staff to have been sacrificed for one individual, no matter how good or the reasons that that individual has for the institution. So I welcome that. But again, let us also look at the whole scenario. Were there people who are on the opposite side of what the staff were saying? So that you will say, well, maybe there's something that fundamentally he wanted to change in the place positively. And the staff didn't want. That didn't appear to be the case. There was nobody on the other side who was saying, look, this is a good man, he should be there.
So, Honorable, you don't agree with those who say that he may have been attempting to introduce some changes to ensure more efficiency at the hospital, but that the staff were resisting it?
That's what I'm saying. In fact, we all want to have the best changes in our institution and situation. And even you have in the past revolutions, all kinds of changes people want to have. But it is important in human relations that if you want to change something in an institution that you have been made head of, you need a critical mass of people to appreciate. There should be people who know what was good for the institution, but they didn't have the requisite, leader to carry out this exercise. And that is what I'm saying. How do we find that? If there was, there should have been a group talking to us about the good measures he was putting in place to move the institution forward. There was none.
So you think that he was doing something wrong, reason why he's been moved out. Okay, so, well,
no,
we now know...
I'm not assuming that. I'm just saying that his human relations was the issue they're raising.
Which is what the workers were also complaining about.
We have people who have qualifications, but they may not have the all-round training to be able to do things. So I believe that whatever the ministry has seen in him, and they want to retrain him or let him go through refresher courses, it's a good and welcome thing.
So but speaking of the training, which is
that this should have been the method they have used.
Well, speaking of the training, which is human relations management, to be specific, from where you stand, will that change anything?
I believe that if you want to reorient him and train him, everybody you should assume is trainable. But his problem was it that he didn't know how to relate to people, how to manage. Of course, as I said, if you are trained in one profession, you may be an expert, but you may not have all-round training. Now, to assume leadership also means that you have to consider other people's views in moving in the institution. You must come to some center state, and you must have a critical mass of people who think like you to be able to move with it. Now, you need to have this before you can get things done in any institution.
Right.
And they have been very good leaders. But because they didn't know how to move whatever institution they were heading, they could be failed. And I think that the issue should not be for you to continue to say, I will do this and send him back. I mean, why? There are many institutions and you could go elsewhere.
Okay.
He could even be asked to understudy other people and understand.
All right.
But I believe that the Ministry of Health, if they have finally come to this realization.
Very well. Very well. Thank you so much. And that is Minority Spokesperson on Health, the Honorable Joseph Yilechire there. And speaking of nursing, academic activities could come to a halt at the Bolgatanga Nursing Training College in the Upper East region if an impasse between tutors and the principal of the college is not resolved. The tutors say an impending exam for students of the school is under threat due to friction between themselves and the principal. They've been addressing a news conference at Bolgatanga, from where Upper East correspondent Albert Sorry reports.
The tutors of the Bolgatanga Nursing Training College say in September last year, they petitioned the head of health training institutions about certain decisions of the principal that they felt were inappropriate.
The procurement policy was not being followed. We also had problems related to the development levy that this college had, through a previous director, instituted to be able to help development in our college, which was being not utilized. I'm sure as you have come into this college, you have seen that the college is actually dilapidated. The facilities aren't the way a nursing training college should look. We also accused or leveled allegations against our principal because for the fact that certain activities that concern academic work were being ignored.
They add that the Ministry of Health was copied in their petition, and this prompted a visit by the Deputy Minister of Health, Tina Mensah, to the college. The tutors allege that rather than tackle the issue in the manner that they had hoped, the Deputy Minister of Health threatened to transfer them if they were not ready to work with the principal.
Initially, when we met with her, she told us that the investigations were not over, so they can't tell us anything about the report. So for that reason, we still thought that once the investigations are not over, she should allow him to stay aside while school continues, academic work continues. But she declined. In fact, she was not happy, and she left, and with a statement that she was going to transfer us.
The Bolgatanga Nursing Training College is one of the oldest tertiary institutions in the Upper East region, but has seen very little development over the years. Some building projects in the college have been abandoned, even though it is highly constrained in terms of infrastructure. The tutors of the college say their desire to see the college develop is the basis for their demands for action to be taken against the principal.
In fact, you need to see certain times when we are teaching and students are running around looking for chairs to come and sit down. And to the extent that sometimes when they don't find chairs, they are standing by the windows and listening. What are we impacting in them? Are we actually showing that sympathy that we expect students, these trainees, to come out and show sympathy and empathy for our patients? Is that what we are showing to them?
School has just reopened and most students are yet to report. However, if the current impasse between the tutors and the principal of the college is anything to go by, there is a high possibility of a sit-down strike or even a total boycott of tutoring if a proper mediation is not done and the problem resolved. For Joy News, Albert Sorry, reporting from Bolgatanga.
We stay a while longer on health because Chief Executive of the National Health Insurance Authority, Dr. Samuel Yao Ano, says the perception that the NHIS does not cover some services in most of the health facilities in the country is a thing of the past. He says the NHIA is working to prevent all unauthorized fees charged by some service providers and ensure that NHIS card bearers enjoy the best of services. Dr. Ano made this known during a consultative meeting with organized labor and some health service providers in the Eastern region. Maxwell Kudeko reports.
Dr. Samuel Ano also urged secondary health service providers to render premium service to tertiary facilities free of charge for all National Health Insurance Service card bearers. He says his tour across the regions reveals that some health providers charge unauthorized fees from National Health Insurance Service card bearers. The NHIS boss hinted All the excuses for unauthorized fee charges by health providers have been sorted, whilst all legitimate claims have been paid. He advised secondary health providers to add what he calls motivation or a cover letter to all other services that are not catered for under the current list of National Health Insurance Service and file for claims after treating the patient. He added the authority wants subscribers to fully benefit free health care without stress at designated health facilities. The National Health Insurance Authority is seeking the support of Ghanaians to increase the NHIS levy from 2.5% to 3.5% and introduce new tariffs for the efficient running of the scheme.
Medicines, we believe that the pricing of medicines will come down this year. Again, negotiation is going on. The Chamber of Pharmacy has promised us, the whole country, that they will be able to drop costs of some prescribed medicine by about 30% if government give them a waiver of the VAT import tax. And because the VAT import tax will also affect us, because our inflow depends on the VAT.
Dr. Samuel Ano hinted the NHIS is not in a good shape and needed a rethink of financing models in order to sustain the scheme. This informed the proposal to increase the NHIS levy from 2.5% to 3.5% and an introduction of health tax which will be imposed on people and industries whose activities causes illness or diseases.
Providers are allowed 3 months to submit their claim to us. We are also allowed about 3 months to bear these claims and submit to them. So it leaves this gap of 6 months. And we are saying that let's move away from this 6 months delay. Who want to give his money to you without interest for 6 months? Even the banks with so much money are not prepared to do that. How much more our service providers? Let's change the way we manage the claims. Let's process the claims electronically. Let's vet it within a week or so. Let's pay them monthly and everything will be easy for everybody.
Secretary General of TUC Yao Ban has also been speaking with Maxwell Kudeko on the views of organized labor over the proposed increase in the National Health Insurance Scheme levy and introduction of health tax.
Our workers of Ghana think that if you take even a penny from us, you should account for it. That is number one. The other one is that we all agree that the National Health Insurance should be fixed. It was broken. So that is an issue that came up everywhere. And everybody was saying that we should not pay the money into consolidated fund. We should have a separate fund called National Health Insurance Fund. The money should flow directly into it instead of paying it into consolidated fund before it is disbursed to National Health Insurance.
You're still watching Joy News Prime. Still ahead, petroleum prices dip at the pumps following review of special petroleum tax, except some motorists are not impressed.
I haven't seen anything. Look at it. Have you seen anything? Anytime I buy it, I got this thing. It's still the same. I haven't seen any change.
Details after this break. You're welcome back. Now, fuel prices went down marginally at the pumps Friday morning following the review of the special petroleum tax by Parliament on Thursday. In addition to the reduction of about 19 pesos on the litre, the bi-weekly automatic price review also reduced the prices a little more. Motorists Joy News has been speaking with are, however, not very impressed, insisting the impact is negligible. Ifwa Evans Chinnery has been speaking to some of them.
No, there's no change. It's still the same. It's still the same, right?
Okay. So what you're saying is there's no change?
I haven't seen anything. Look at it. Have you seen anything? Anytime I buy it, I got this thing. It's still the same. I haven't seen any change.
Okay. So when you heard the news about the reduction in petroleum prices, how did you feel?
So I didn't feel anything. It's still the same.
Even if it's 1 peso, it's a reduction. But what will its impact be to the pockets of the ordinary Ghanaian? Yes, today you're talking about this percentage. Is it going to reflect in price reduction? That is a first. If not, then to the ordinary Ghanaian it's irrelevant.
When you first heard the news?
I was very happy. I was very, very happy because...
How much were you buying before?
Every day I used to buy about 100 Ghana cedis for a day. And now maybe with this reduction, I think at least 80 Ghana.
You're hoping to pay less?
Yeah, so 60 Ghana or 80 Ghana will be fine for me.
Reduct the petrol, I think, is good for us because this is what we have been crying for. Not me. Some can afford, some cannot afford. So if it equals to what we will benefit, I think we thank God. It's good because let me think. This morning, this is what people were saying. So and so they are happy. So we are all happy.
Now, Parliament's Government Assurance Committee is set to audit the 745,000 figure given by the Agric Ministry as those employed under the Planting for Food and Jobs program. This will form part of the committee's assessment of the extent of implementation of key government policies with funds allocated to by Parliament. Minister for Agriculture, Dr. Owusu Afriyie, is on record to have intimated that 745,000 persons have so far been employed under government's flagship Agric policy. The figure has been disputed by the minority in Parliament, but the committee believes its planned tour of the country will put the matter to rest. Yafrin Pong Ado is chairman of the committee.
We have a program. The committee has a program that we are going to select some ministries to pursue in the course of this year, and we have our strengths from the budget and the State of the Nation address, because from the budget monies are allocated to certain ministries to undertake certain projects, the flagship projects that we have to pursue. And the president also repeated same when he came to the floor of the House.
For the flagship projects, I mean, we know we've heard of the free SHS, Planting for Food and Jobs, among others. So are those programs that you are considering?
Exactly. And we don't pick just the projects, but we pick the ministries. You see, so for example, Planting for Food and Jobs, it means you are going to pick on Ministry of Food and Agriculture and Cocoa Affairs. We want to see what is happening there, because this year enough monies have been released or earmarked for that particular program. And they have assured us that they're going to recruit over 500,000 people. And the multiplier effect of the 500,000 people is massive. I mean, so if you pursue them and they do the right thing, it will be good for this country. The youth will have lots of jobs to do. And the jobs they are talking about is from the farm gate to the market.
You're going to all those areas to try and verify the figures we've heard?
Yeah, for the figures, yes. Because if you say you've been given this amount of money and you are going to create this number of jobs, we need to know where those jobs are being created. And if it is verifiable, we will do that. Why not?
Well, still in Parliament, the House is to debate the report of the Appointments Committee on the nomination of Martin Alamisi Amidu as Special Prosecutor on Tuesday, February 20. This was announced by Minister for Parliamentary Affairs, Osechi Mensah Bonsu.
Speaker, for Tuesday, questions may be programmed, as I've indicated, even though now we have none. Statements may be made, and the Appointment Committee may submit their report. The report on His Excellency the President's nomination of Mr. Martin Alamisi Benz Kaiser Amidu as Special Prosecutor. Speaker, the report may be adopted by the House on same day or perhaps the ensuing day, Wednesday. Speaker, the debate on the President's message on the State of the Nation would continue on Tuesday and continue again on Wednesday, as I said, to conclude on Thursday, the 22nd of February. The second reading of bills, Taxation, Use of Fiscal Electronic Device Bill 2017, may be taken on Tuesday, the 20th of February.
You're still watching Joy News Prime with me, Araba Kumsin. Still ahead, research findings by law professor Raymond Atukuba on the voting pattern of some justices of the Supreme Court courts their displeasure.
This gathering is essentially justices of the Superior Court. You come, we are assembled here, and you drum this into our ears. I think it is an insult of the highest order.
The minority in Parliament also proposed the imposition of an upper limit on the number of Supreme Court justices. We'll bring you details after this break.
Hello, good evening to you. Time for business. Now, renowned economist and former board chairman of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, Ishmael Yamson, is proposing a deliberate policy by government to move the Ghana Beyond Aid agenda. He said the culture of debt payments by every government is dragging the country's development. According to the industrialist, no nation will develop better with huge debts laden with exorbitant interest rates. Ishmael Yamson made the call in an interview with Joy Business after addressing members of the American Chamber of Business under the theme, Ghana's economy moving from stabilization to growth.
Governments over governments over governments have borrowed and overborrowed, and the governments have been have come under very severe fiscal stress because they then have to find the money to not only service the debt but also pay the interest. I want to see a situation where we can build the kind of economy which is robust enough, which is driven by manufacturing and agriculture and services, which generates enough money so that government can save and invest. And for private sector operators also to be able to save and invest. Because without savings, you cannot have investment. And if you are always borrowing and paying interest and are in debt, how do you save and how do you invest money? So it is good to go beyond aid. But I think we should also focus in building a much more robust, resilient economy that delivers robust revenue, which makes it impossible for us.
My government has justified the marginal reduction of the special petroleum tax despite calls to scrap the entire levy. Sources close to government have indicated the review was carried out to ensure that revenue is not impacted badly. Meanwhile, Deputy Minister of Finance Kweku Kwarteng tells Joy Business they were also concerned with lessening the impact on consumers anytime prices go up on the world market.
The main point of this relief is not so much in savings. It is to correct a situation where anytime crude oil prices go up, and because we are practicing a partial deregulatory petroleum pricing regime, it is passed on to consumers. Then the tax on it also has to go up. So if crude oil prices go up, fuel prices go up, and then the taxes on fuel, because it is a percentage of the face value of the fuel. That is to say, if fuel prices go up, then the taxes on it too will be going up. So it was double hit for consumers because they'll be paying for the increased price of fuel, they'll be paying for the increased tax, which has been made a percentage of the fuel price. So what we have done today is to make that tax to make a tax which was ad valorem, that is to say, which was a percentage of the fuel price, to make it now a fixed tax. We call it specific. It's a specific tax. So even if crude oil prices were to go up, those taxes would remain the same. Hopefully, that will bring some long-term relief to consumers and to businesses as fuel prices change upwards.
Now, an advisor to President Akufo-Addo on the Sustainable Development Goals, Eugene Owusu, is urging businesses to align their corporate goals with the SDGs to maximize coherence and on common platforms with government efforts aimed at attaining the goals. This, according to him, will open up new business opportunities and spur innovations in their workplaces. He made the call at the Canadian Chamber CSR event on sustainable development goals under the theme, Why SDGs Matter for Your Business.
According to 2017 Business and Sustainability Development Commission report, achieving the global goals will open up $12 trillion of market opportunities in 4 economic systems. These are the areas of food and agriculture, cities, energy and materials, and health and well-being. They represent around 60% of real economy and are critical to delivering the global goals. Presidential advisor on the SDGs, Eugene Owusu, urged businesses to align their corporate goals with global goals to conform with government's development agenda. This was at the Canada Chamber of CSR event on sustainable development goals themed, Why SDGs Matter for Your Business.
There are lots of best practices, that sit within the private sector, which could be beneficial for government as government and society more broadly endeavor to achieve the goals. It's really about leveraging those knowledge and best practices that sit certainly within the private sector. The second is innovation. The private sector is a mega custodian when it comes to innovation. Much of the innovation in this world today originates from the private sector. And we do know that innovation has become the new currency for development. So it's important that we tap into this outstanding innovation within the private sector to support achievement of the goal.
Canadian High Commissioner to Ghana, Heather Cameron, also advocated the need for businesses to include their corporate agenda into government's interventions to help achieve the global goals.
Since companies have a role to play in creating jobs and creating value for the communities and where they work, paying taxes, protecting the environment. And what we've heard today is the conversations are already underway, and in fact that the global business community also had a role to play in defining the SDGs. And it's very encouraging to hear from the Office of the Presidency this morning that there will continue to be conversations about how government and the private sector here in Ghana can work together.
Fauzia to Adam for Joy Business.
The Chief Operations Officer of Rana Motors, an automobile marketing company, Kasim Odemat, is urging the Bank of Ghana to further cut down interest rates to enhance affordability of new vehicles by the public. Now, the automobile sector has been a major driver of economic growth, serving as a significant foreign exchange earner. Unfortunately, a sizable number of the population is not able to access adequate financing to acquire brand new vehicles. Kasim Odemat raised the concern on the sidelines of the launch of Ford Track 5443T in Accra.
Well, actually, we always try to be as much as competitive. Of course, we being members of the Ghana Automobile Distributors Association, we're always in talks with the government and with the different associations to ensure to create a more more good conditions and especially talking with the banks and even talking with Bank of Ghana to if we can take the rates and the interest rates down so we can make it more affordable for each and every Ghanaian to be able to buy a car. Because today, honestly speaking, a lot of second-hand cars are coming to the country. It is causing more pollution, and at the same time, they're not safe and they're not made for our country in terms of even equipment and even options. There's a lot of things that doesn't fit our country. So even from a safety point of view, we always discuss with the government and the banks so they can make it more and more affordable for the companies to be able to afford a new vehicle and for the individuals, because that's the best way to keep our roads clean, to keep our country clean, and to keep our customers and the people of Ghana safe.
And that's all in business. Many thanks for watching. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji Wiafi. Good evening.
You're welcome back. Now, research findings shared by renowned lawyer Professor Raymond Atuguba on voting patterns of judges of the Supreme Court appear to have rubbed some justices the wrong way. According to Professor Atuguba, virtually all the justices analyzed when giving judgment in political cases tend to lean towards the regimes that appointed them. Sharing details of his findings at the 2018 GIMPA Law Conference, Professor Raymond Atuguba says the purpose of the research is to move away from the perception that justices of the Supreme Court deliver justice without any bias under a constitutional democracy. Maxwell Agbagba has more.
Professor Raymond Atuguba says the purpose of the research is to move away from the perception that justices of the Supreme Court deliver justice without any bias under a constitutional democracy. Professor Atuguba points to political party appointments to the bench as one central factor that influences the decision of judges.
It's not about the integrity of the judges. No, this is not about judicial integrity. All I'm saying is this. I took 100 political cases. I analyzed the voting patterns. The voting patterns coincided with the parties who appointed them to power. It is not a coincidence that this happened. To convince me that it's a coincidence, you need to give me arguments that it is a coincidence. Overall, the data reveals that 14 out of 22 NDC appointees, making up 64% of the parties appointees to the Supreme Court, have given judgments in favor of the NDC. The MPP was more successful with 13 of their 16 judges giving a majority judgment in their favor. So 81% consistency.
But Chief Justice Sophia Kufu, who was present during the presentation, says the research by the law professor is new to Ghana and he must be cautious with the cultural context.
You know, it's an American type of research that you have done. This one is this color, this one is this color, this one is that color. Sometimes for some of the live coverage of the Supreme Court, they will actually write R or D after the judge's name. That's fine, but please be careful. Talking about importation, be careful what you're importing into our environment. They are used to that, we are not. We can stand here and accept what you're saying without walking out. We didn't walk out. I don't think there was a single judge who agreed with what you were saying. But we didn't walk out. Because our society and the environment is completely different from the American one, which has developed its own systems. We've never had this kind of thing. People can think whatever they like, but when it receives the imprimatur of a professor, it becomes dangerous.
Another Supreme Court Judge, Jones Duche, was even more critical.
You are entitled to your views, but I thought that when we meet, and this gathering is essentially justices of the Superior Court, and you come, we are assembled here, and you drum this into our ears, I think it is an insult of the highest order. But as judges and as academics, I think we accept it. We'll look at your entire presentation in context.
Well, US-based Ghanaian academic Professor Kweku Asare has, however, commended Professor Atuguba for his research. He urged him in a post on Facebook to publish the findings of what he describes as his, quote, fascinating findings. It reads, are Supreme Court justices more likely to vote for the political party of the president who appointed them? This is an important and fascinating research question, and I commend and congratulate Professor Raymond Atuguba for confronting the question with empirical data. His research, presented at the Gimpa Law Conference, reveals that, quote, 14 out of 22 NDC appointees have given judgments in favor of the NDC, while 13 of the 16 judges appointed by the MPP have given judgments in favor of the party. End quote. It's unfortunate that the Chief Justice attacked the professor for simply letting the data talk. I strongly and emphatically disagree with the CJ that doing research like what Atuguba has done is analogous to comparing foreign judicial systems to Ghana's. Unlike the Chief Justice, who cautioned the learned professor to be careful about what he's importing into our environment, they are used to that. We are not. I urge him to persist with his research and publish the fascinating findings. We cannot talk about quality in legal education if we put restrictions on the research of legal academics. We must start getting used to research if indeed the claim that we are not already used to it is meritorious. Hashtag annul that obnoxious LI. And so that's a post by renowned legal brain, Professor Kweku Asare. Meanwhile, former Commissioner of SHA, Justice Emil Short, says Professor Atuguba's report ought to be subjected to thorough scrutiny to determine what he describes as political cases. This, he says, is a way of validating the research findings. Justice Short says even though he is against presidential appointments of Supreme Court judges, such information without critical analysis could jeopardize judicial integrity. He spoke earlier on the polls.
Well, it may be true, it may not be true. I wasn't convinced because, in the first place, I don't know the criteria he used for determining which cases are political cases. And then secondly, even if the criteria was well-founded, you would have to show me in each case that there are no flaws in the judgment, that there are no defects, that the facts and the law did not justify or justified the conclusion.
Let's stay on this a while longer because Majority Leader Osei Mensah-Bonsu is calling for a 2/3 parliamentary majority approval of the appointments of justices of the Supreme Court and other positions like the Inspector General of Police and Commissioners of the Electoral Commission. The Majority Leader believes this will ensure proper consultation by the President before these appointments are made. His comments follow a research by Professor Raymond Atuguba seeking to analyze the voting patterns of justices of the Supreme Court and the political party that appointed them in the 100 cases studied. 14 out of the 22 NDC-appointed judges gave judgment in favor of the NDC, while 13 of the 22 judges appointed by the MPP gave judgment in favor of the MPP. But first, here's Majority Leader Osei Mensah-Bonsu speaking to the issue during the second day of the law conference.
The appointment of certain officers, Supreme Court. I think I even mentioned it in my own initial submission. I believe we should look at it. And even though elsewhere in the US, typically, justices of the Supreme Court are identified by their political coloration, in ordinary cases, the political views are hidden.
On his part, Minority Leader Haruna Iddrisu wants a ceiling on the number of justices appointed to the Supreme Court.
And my view supports that there must be a ceiling of the maximum. I don't think it should exceed 11. I said if the US was 9, we could move up 2 other because of our own historical experiences into 11. I even said at most 30, but at least there must be a ceiling. Because we have also seen instances where justices of the Superior Court were appointed anticipating a particular decision on a matter in this country. That is not right. That is not justice. And the argument then was that you were expanding the panel. Not right to your judgment, but to the politicians. We are quick in going to determine that you are just being appointed to go and support that particular decision without respect for your conscience and the right that you seek to do.
Now, as we discussed earlier, it's been a week since songstress Ebony died. Now, 1 week after her death in a road accident, authorities remain tight-lipped on the contractor who was working on the killer section of the Sunyani-Kumasi Road. Although concrete has been used to seal the potholes at the point where the accident happened, there are still defects on the road. Love FM's Erastus Asare-Donko visited the scene of the accident and filed this report.
It's been a week since Ebony Rains, that great songstress, and 2 others died on this section of the Sunyani Road. Now, a week after, we came back to find out what has changed on this killer section of the Sunyani Road. In fact, we realized that this sign says, keep right. It means when you're coming from this side, you need to keep off this side. You need to go towards this side more. Why? Because behind me, where the heap of sand that we know Ebony's vehicle bumped into and started this whole accident, was on that side. Why was it there? In fact, we are learning that it was there because there were some group of people who belonged to an unnamed company who were trying to use that heap of sand to fill the potholes here and repair that damaged portion of the road. And this gentleman here is going to tell us he has been using this particular road. We'll find out from him who he saw using that heap of sand to work.
Nti okay mi hu se ekwa no ye fan se ye no fan ba bi na sei na cruise wi ba so mba ba ye kwa no nti mo ba ye kwa no
cruise ben no
me ntime hu cruise kro mba ba ye kwa no nti o mba ye no mo de anwen na tie bi begu ekwa no fa sei no de begu ho nti obi de gu ho no ana ye se ato mu gya kwa no ko ne kwa nso no na efa no a cars ni firi kuma se ba na efa no na amna da sa efa ni fan sei no.
He saw some gentlemen who were using that heap of sand to work on that section. I was trying to find out from him who they are. He says he doesn't know who they are, but they wear overalls indicating they work for a specific construction company. But as we speak, let's find out what has changed since we came here 1 week ago. Now, what has changed is that we've seen that they've used some concrete patterns to patch the potholes, 2 big potholes on this side of the road. They've used concrete to patch that. They've also patched those 2 potholes over there. And then they've cleared the heap of sand on this side of the road. But then the railings that were destroyed through series of accidents on this road, they continue to remain on that section of the road. And as you can see, they put 2 signs here. It means in the night, it poses a real danger. If you are coming in the night and you might be sleeping or something on the job, you might go to this side and it's possible you fall into that hole. There is another hole that is developing on this side as well, and that is also another dangerous point where they've put the sign on. So it still requires urgency that Highway Authority comes back to this particular stretch and fix the problem properly. Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asare-Donko, Nyame Betre, Sunyani Road.
Now, the National Anti-Galamsey Task Force is to intensify its operations on the country's water bodies, which are being polluted by illegal miners. According to a statement released by the Ghana Armed Forces, the Operation Vanguard team has already begun the intensive riverine operations meant to halt the activities of some recalcitrant illegal miners who have relocated their destructive activities onto major water bodies in the eastern, western, Ashanti, central and Brong-Ahafo regions. It comes on the back of recent arrests of some illegal miners found operating in the Pra River at Trifo Praso. The statement says currently Personnel from the Ghana Navy, the Army, engineers and units within the 5 regions in conjunction with Operation Vanguard personnel are conducting simultaneous and robust military operations to destroy all floating mining equipment and flush out the illegal miners in order to halt the ongoing pollution of rivers and water bodies. The objective of the operations is to sustain the gains made by Operation Vanguard. Although over 1,000 illegal miners have been arrested and the equipment seized by the National Anti-Galamsey Task Force, the Ghana Armed Forces says it deems it necessary to step up the riverine operations in order to maintain the improved security situation and curb the menace by the illegal miners. It says the riverine operations has since its inception led to the destruction of over 340 makeshift accommodations and mining equipment, including chan fans, water pumping machines, motorcycles and tricycles deserted by illegal miners, especially at Dokochina around the Bui Dam. Some of the water bodies on which the riverine operations are being undertaken include River Birim, River Nkobra, River Ofin and the Bui Dam. Now, former President John Agyekum Kufuor is hoping some former MPs who served under his administration would eventually be paid entitlements they say is due them, but which haven't been outstanding, or which have been outstanding for many years. Numbering about 40, the MPs, including senior minister in the Nana Akufo-Addo administration, Yao Osafo-Maafo, acting New Patriotic Party chairman Freddie Blay, and Kwamina Bartels sued the Attorney General and the Ministry of Finance over pensions owed them, demanding at least 230,000 cedis each. The plaintiff's claim is anchored on one of the recommendations by the Chinere Hesse Committee report, which says that persons who exited Parliament having served 2 full terms and are above 50 years should be paid some sums of money as pension benefits. The former president, who was speaking at his residence when the Association of Former MPs called on him, promised to lead the group to seek audience on the matter from the Speaker of Parliament.
Into the Fourth Republic, all of us who served as MPs, I believe we become entitled by the first Green Street report and then Chinere Hesse report. Unfortunately, as I said, sometimes we have ourselves to blame. When my government was out, Chinere Hesse had been approved by Parliament, and the succeeding Parliament should have followed through. But it was the succeeding Parliament that attacked the Chinere Hesse report, pretended it wasn't Parliament that approved it. And because of that, the executive also exploited the thing. And for years, people's entitlements were not given to them. It was politicians working on partisan basis, undoing their fellow politicians unjustly. So, Chinere Hesse report is, to me, legal, legitimate, and the court should act quickly to give to former MPs the entitlements under that. Because Chinere Hesse report issued out of the Constitution, Ghana's Constitution. And so I agree with you. Court matter should be there. But all of us across the party lines should appreciate this one and do the right thing by us.
He urged the association to contribute to national issues and not limit themselves to just the Fourth Republic.
We need again to seek audience with the Speaker. And of course, I, as a veteran, I will put in a word with the Speaker. Perhaps the way to go about it is not to tell the sitting MPs now that, look, your day will come. If you do that, they might not take it too kindly. But we should find a way to let Parliament know that retired MPs become like a storehouse of experience and, if you like, knowledge. And it's an intergenerational thing. In our generation, we try to do this and that and that. You are continuing and you may benefit from an experience or two that we might proffer to you. I believe this is how to do it. And then I like this idea of extreme partisanship, especially when the going is good for us when we are in Parliament. We tend not to see matters holistically. We go in on an adversarial way, us against them. It's not good. I was talking not too long ago about necessity to even get a second house, which would not be picked on basis of partisanship, so as to sort of temper the partisanship of us against them, the winner takes all mentality.
Vice President of the Association and former Member of Parliament for Asante Achim South, Alex Kweku Koranche, outlined some challenges they face.
It is recently that the Speaker funded our first major meeting of all former Members of Parliament. He funded it, and we commend him for that. Yes, he funded it, and even what we requested, he even topped it up for us. And we were able to make a successful meeting. Since then, we have not been able to organize a serious meeting, all because of funding, lack of funding. And some of us, most of us don't work. We are not on boards of corporations and other things, so we are finding it extremely difficult to make the association the impact we feel the society must have on us. And we are here to solicit for ideas, ways we can actually get people to fund the association for us, so that somebody put it that those who are presently there in Parliament, yesterday we were like them, tomorrow they will be like us. So it is a place for everybody. Currently, those who are there, they should know that one day they will join the association. And one of our frustrations, like he said, anytime you visit a place that you have something small to collect, they bring a lot of frustrations, and that is actually making the work very difficult.
The Upper West Regional Director of the Ghana Highway Authority, Kofi Opongba, has assured motorists using the Wan-Adoli Highway that culverts at the Wadia Dam are in good condition. It follows concerns sections of the drainage system there are damaged, with iron rods used in the construction exposed, with implications for the safety of those who ply the route. Joy News' Upper West Regional Correspondent Rafiq Salam visited the site and now reports.
This is the Wan-Adoli Highway. It overlooks the dam, locally referred to here as Belibor, but has now been named after Lebanese philanthropist and road contractor PNW Ghanem as Wadia Dam. The road was constructed over 20 years ago as part of the Wajiriba Road project. It is an important road because it connects the regional capital to 6 districts in the region and neighboring Burkina Faso. So traffic on the road is huge. The huge traffic on the road also comes with accidents. Most of the vehicles involved in the accidents here are heavy trucks. Scores of people have maimed and others losing their lives.
When we have the feeling that all is well with this road, considering the number of cars, motorbikes that are speed passing each other on the road. But But I tell you, the situation is different as we move down the culvert.
Looking at the culvert, the structural integrity is perfect, but the wing wall is broken and completely detached from the main culvert. Upper West Regional Director of the Ghana Highways Authority, Engineer Thomas Kofi Opomba, explained why the wing wall completely detached from the main culvert.
Anytime the water dam, anytime it will flows the weir, right, it falls at the height, yes, and that is what is scouring. There are some turbulence, yes, at the outlets, and that scour the wing wall, and that's why we have that problem. If you don't do anything with it, then the scour will go and affect the main culvert over time, and that's why we may have some problem later.
Some iron bars on the piers are also exposed, thereby raising fears that the culvert could collapse if immediate steps are not taken. Engineer Thomas Kofi allayed the fears of drivers that the culvert is not as bad as they are thinking of.
It's not so that dangerous, it's not affecting the main road, but then we have to repair it. Even as you have seen it and you informed us, we are going to make a program to get it restored. And then the apron, we do the apron too, so I can stand firm and support. We are lucky here we don't have the salty or the salinity as we have in Accra. So even though the water can corrode the iron rod, but the opening is not so much. Yeah, it's just some constructional something that so we can patch it.
He didn't give timelines as to when they will move in to fix the broken wing walls and aprons.
We have 3 culverts there. The second one has an apron. The apron is intact. And for that matter, you see that the wing wall is still strong and it's not having the crack as we are having at the first and the third one. Every year, we have critical culverts that we build, and this part of maybe concrete waste and other things, we can add to it. And by next year, hopefully, you can deal with it.
Reporting for Joy News, Rafiq Salam.
And speaking of roads, contractors who execute shoddy jobs will soon face the special prosecutor to account for funds approved for their projects. That's according to the Auditor General Daniel Domelevo speaking at the conference organized by the Institute of Chartered Accountants here in Accra. Mr. Domelevo hinted that officials from his outfit have been dispatched to investigate contractors who do careless jobs with regards to buildings and roads constructed in the country.
About 2 months ago, I went to Bukwasi, where the satellite is. That road was tarred. I've been going there for a long time because my younger sister stays there. And I said, hey, for once the road is tarred. Then I heard, oh, they said the president is coming. I said, oh, okay. I wish president visits everywhere he can. We can have all the roads tarred. 3 weeks later, I went to visit her and the road is gone. I said, what? Who consulted this? And as a result of that, I started looking for our performance audit unit. And then we will go on that route and find out what was the contract, what is the bill of quantities, what is the qualification, the quantities and everything. And if it doesn't conform, we will say charge. And that's what we are going to start. We're going to do a lot of construction audits. I have a team now around. I have a team now going around. But yesterday they showed me some of the video. I said, good things are going to happen in Ghana. They have machines, they can test the wall and tell that the strength of the wall is below what is required. So this building must be funded at 100%. We need to protect the public best. Otherwise, we may be in this building before we realize mass burial. Then we are all gone. So that is the reason why we must ensure that in the course of our audits, we need a link to the special prosecutor. I hope his office is not situated too far from our office. I think it should be a bit closer so that in the course of our auditing, we can just be feeding him with our information that we have. And I think this is a very important message that all Ghanaians should buy into. that when we have detected abuse of public funds and collected it, it should not end there. We need something more to it, because the consequence to the society, we all bear it. We all complain of our bad roads. We all complain of electricity not being on. We've forgotten that one person has put all the money in his pocket.
This is Joy News Prime.
And in the headlines, research findings by law professor Raymond Atuguba on the voting pattern of some justices of the Supreme Court courts their displeasure. There are, however, suggestions on how the supposed political patronage could be minimized. Meanwhile, the minority in Parliament also proposed the imposition of an upper limit on the number of Supreme Court justices. Parliament's Government Assurance Committee to interrogate 745,000 planting for food and jobs employment figure. In business, renowned industrialist and former board chairman of the GIPC, Ishmael Yamson, proposes deliberate policy by government to move the Ghana Beyond Aid agenda. Also, petroleum prices dip at the pumps following review of special petroleum tax, except some motorists are not impressed.